My mentor was horrible. I wouldn't even I wouldn't even call her a mentor. She wasn't a great mentor. Anyway, she essentially told me that I was not cut out for sales because I wasn't making enough cold calls.
Mm.
And she said, but that's really unfortunate because you're really great with customers. I was like, well, okay. So surely there's something I can do where I'm just working with customers and not cold calling all day.
Hmm.
And at the time, tech was starting to become talked about more often. It was kind of like this hot topic. It wasn't as popular as it is now.
Oh, of course.
And I was like, well, if I'm looking to grow my career, like I might as well get into tech now because this feels like the right place to be
Yeah.
in.
Not going anywhere, right?
Yeah. And so I moved over to a teeny tiny startup. So I went from like a 10,000 plus employee company to I think I was employee number like 17.
Hmm.
Complete opposites. And I was in customer success there and I never left.
So it doesn't happen as often anymore, but there's this dialogue of customer success is where salespeople who couldn't cut it go.
Hmm.
And I want to make sure that we nip that in the bud. I absolutely don't agree with it. And I know that that's not what you were trying to communicate, but I certainly don't want anybody to take that from what you just said. That is a bullshit thing to say. And it makes absolutely no sense once you understand what customer success does. And if you don't, it's a much larger conversation. We can go there, but
Yeah.
never,
No,
ever, ever let anybody say that.
it's interesting you say that because at the time, I almost felt that way from the conversation that I had with my mentor. It was like,
Hmm.
well, you're not cut out for this, but you could go try this other thing. Obviously, now I know much better.
Yeah.
It's almost difficult to even compare the two because they're
Hmm.
two totally different skill sets. So, so, so different.
And within them, they can be so different. Like this whole new thing about like a digital CS.
Yeah.
I wouldn't ever consider that a junior CSM. I think it's a person who knows how to have a lot of conversations with a lot of people at scale. They
Yes.
know how to use technology to the best of their ability to do that and can
Mhm.
still upsell, cross sell, retain using those tools. It's kind of like fighting with one hand tied behind your back, whereas a CSM, a traditional one, has both hands. And so that's one way in which you might stratify customer success. And then within sales, there's outside sales, there's inside sales, there's enterprise sales, there's SMB sales.
Mhm.
It runs the whole gamut. And it's another one of those mental shortcuts people try to make that I think is just lazy. It's just lazy.
Yeah, I love what you said about the scaled or the digital CSM role. Something that I'm personally really excited about is there are a lot of companies who treat that like an entry level role, which makes sense. What I think is really cool for especially career changers is, these companies are treating this role like an entry level role, which means you're more likely to have an opportunity to get hired into that role as
Hmm.
opposed to a strategic CSM, right? That's not going to happen. But with as digital and as these scaled CSM functions within companies grow, that's a whole career path in and of itself.
Yeah.
Because just because you're amazing at digital scale CSM does not mean that you're going to be good at, nor are you going to like being an enterprise CSM. They can be so different.
And I would say it goes both ways. An enterprise CSM is not necessarily going to be good at what you do. And so
Yeah.
you shouldn't necessarily be paid less or
Hmm.
differently. Like don't ever think that you're second class if that's the role you've chosen. It's a brand new part of customer success that there's probably a ton of question marks around from your supervisors or even other people in the industry, but don't ever discount it. It's a very powerful skill set.
Yeah. And I think with it being immature as a function, that to me just screams opportunity.